I woke up in a hospital bed with my lawyer standing over me, holding some documents and wearing a look I'll never forget. "Vivian," he said softly, "your son just tried to declare you legally dead while you were still in surgery." I'm Vivian Porter, 73 years old, and I'm about to share one of the craziest stories of my life, one that kicked off with a routine surgery and ended with me realizing my son had been plotting to rob me financially for months. But before I get into it, where are you tuning in from? Drop your location in the comments. I love hearing from you all. Let's rewind 6 months. I was living comfortably in Portland, Oregon, in the house my late husband Richard and I bought back in 1985. Richard passed away 8 years ago from a heart attack, and since then, I'd managed everything myself: my finances, investments, and my small rental property portfolio. I wasn't rich, but I was doing okay. I had around $400,000 in savings, two rental properties worth about $300,000 each, and a modest collection of jewelry Richard had given me over our 42 years together. My son Brandon is 48, my only child. For years, I thought he was a successful real estate developer. He wore nice suits, drove an expensive car, and was always chatting about deals and investments. He visited regularly, asking how I was doing and if I needed help with anything. I thought he was just being a good son, not realizing he was actually keeping tabs on me. The truth started to come out in January when I was diagnosed with a heart valve issue. It wasn't life-threatening, but serious enough that my cardiologist recommended surgery. It was supposed to be routine. They'd go in, fix the valve, and I'd be home in a week. Brandon jumped in right away, insisting on being there for every appointment. He wanted to know all the details about the surgery, recovery, and risks. I thought he was just worried about me. I was so naive. "Mom, you know this is serious surgery," he said one evening, about 3 weeks before my operation. We were sitting in my living room, and he looked really concerned. "What if something happens? Have you thought about power of attorney?" I should have seen the red flags, but I didn't. I told him I'd think about it. The truth is, I already had my estate attorney, Marcus Winters, handling things. He'd set up a solid will and healthcare directives, everything legally sound. But I never mentioned this to Brandon. Something told me not to. Brandon brought it up again a week later, and then again 3 days after that. Each time, he sounded more urgent. "You're not being responsible," he said. "What if you're unconscious after surgery? Someone needs to handle your bills and access your accounts." He made it sound so reasonable, even offering to have his attorney draw up the paperwork. That's when I made the smartest move of my whole ordeal. I called Marcus. I told him about Brandon's pressure and how uncomfortable it made me feel. "Vivian, don't sign anything. If he asks again, tell him you need to think about it and that you'll use your own attorney. Also, I want to do a background check on Brandon's finances." I was shocked. "Marcus, he's my son." "Trust me," he interrupted. "Something doesn't feel right." I agreed, even though it made me feel terrible. What kind of mother investigates her own child? But 72 hours later, Marcus called me back, and his voice made my blood run cold. "Vivian, we need to meet today. Can you come to my office?" What he showed me that afternoon shattered everything I thought I knew about my son. Brandon wasn't a successful developer. He was drowning in nearly $2 million of debt. His last three projects had failed, and he'd been borrowing from private lenders at crazy interest rates. His house, car, everything was mortgaged beyond belief. "He needs money, Vivian," Marcus said, spreading documents across his desk. "And he knows you have it." I sat there, looking at bank statements and court filings with my son's name on them, and I felt something inside me harden. This was the baby I'd carried for 9 months, the toddler I'd comforted through nightmares, the teenager I'd defended against everyone, and now he was planning to rob me. "What do we do?" I asked Marcus. "First, don't sign anything. Second, document everything. Every conversation, every request he makes. Third, we need to set up some protection. I'm drafting an emergency revocation document. If anyone tries to claim power of attorney over you, this document invalidates it immediately." The surgery was scheduled for February 14th, Valentine's Day. Brandon called me the night before. "Mom, I'll be there early. Don't worry about anything." His voice was warm and reassuring. If I hadn't known what I did, I might have believed he actually cared. But Marcus and I had spent the past 2 weeks preparing for every possible scenario. I arrived at the hospital at 6 a.m. Brandon was already pacing in the pre-op area. He hugged me, asked how I was feeling, and told me everything would be fine. The nurses prepped me, started the IV, and asked their questions. Brandon never left my side. He was holding my hand when they wheeled me toward the operating room. "I love you, Mom," he said, squeezing my fingers. "I'll be right here when you wake up." Those were the last words I heard before the anesthesia took over. What I didn't know was that the moment those operating room doors closed behind me, Brandon went to work. The surgery took 4 hours, standard procedure, no complications. While the surgical team was repairing my heart valve, Brandon was in the cafeteria making phone calls to banks and investment firms, presenting documents claiming I'd signed over power of attorney to him 3 days before my surgery. The documents looked legit, with my signature, or a very good copy of it, and even notary stamps. But Marcus had anticipated this. He arrived at the hospital around hour 3 of my surgery, checked with the nurses, and then watched Brandon. He saw my son making those calls and the look on his face, like he thought he was getting away with something. Then Marcus made his own calls. He contacted the banks, sent them the revocation document, and warned them not to honor any power of attorney presented by Brandon. By the time I was in recovery, still groggy from the anesthesia, Marcus had shut down every attempt Brandon made to access my accounts. But he wanted to catch Brandon in the act, to create undeniable proof of what he was trying to do. I started regaining consciousness around 2 p.m. Everything was fuzzy, but I could hear voices and machines beeping. Then I heard Marcus's voice, low and urgent. "Vivian, if you can hear me, stay quiet. Don't let anyone know you're awake yet. Can you squeeze my hand?" I managed a weak squeeze. My brain was trying to process what was happening. "Your son is in the hallway," Marcus whispered. "He's talking to hospital administration, trying to have you declared mentally incompetent. He has a psychiatrist with him, someone he's clearly paid off, claiming you've shown signs of dementia. He's attempting to get emergency guardianship while you're still sedated." Even through the anesthesia fog, I felt a jolt of clarity. My son wasn't just trying to steal from me. He was trying to erase me as a person. He wanted to control everything: my money, my property, my medical care, my whole life. "The hospital is questioning him because I've presented them with documentation showing you're of sound mind," Marcus continued. "But he's pushing hard. I've called the police. They're on their way. But you need to be ready to speak when I ask you to." I squeezed his hand harder this time. The anger was burning through the medication haze. "He's coming back," Marcus whispered. "Stay still." I kept my eyes closed as footsteps entered the recovery room. Brandon's voice dripped with fake concern. "How is she? Is she awake yet?" A nurse responded. "She's stable. She'll wake up when she's ready." Brandon insisted. "I need to speak with someone in authority. I have power of attorney. I need to make decisions about her care." "Mr. Porter," Marcus interrupted, and I could hear the steel in his voice. "We need to talk outside." Brandon shot back. "Who the hell are you? This is a family matter." "I'm Vivian Porter's attorney of record," Marcus said, "and I've been documenting your fraudulent attempts to access her accounts for the past 4 hours. The police are on their way." The silence that followed was deafening. Brandon's voice changed, turning cold and sharp. "My mother asked me to handle her affairs. I have documentation." "You have forgeries," Marcus corrected. "Very expensive forgeries. Your mother never signed any power of attorney in your favor. In fact, she revoked any such authority 3 weeks ago, which is documented." Brandon started backing away, and I realized he was getting ready to run. "I wouldn't do that," Marcus said calmly. "Hospital security is already at the exits. There's nowhere to go." "This is over," Marcus said. "She's my mother. Those are her assets. After everything, Brandon's voice rose, his facade crumbling. "Do you know what it's been like watching her sit on all that money while I'm losing everything? She doesn't need it all. She's old. She could help me. I'm her son." "You're a thief," Marcus said, and his words hung in the air. "You were willing to have your own mother declared incompetent to rob her of her autonomy and dignity, all to cover your bad decisions." Then the police arrived. "Brandon Porter," one of the officers said. We need you to come with us. We have questions about fraudulent documents and attempted elder financial exploitation. What happened next is forever etched in my memory. My son, the child I raised, the boy I taught to read, began yelling about his rights, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, that he was just trying to help me. The desperation in his voice wasn't for me, it was for himself and the money he thought he was about to lose. That's when I opened my eyes. "Brandon," I said, my voice rough but clear enough. "Stop talking." The room fell silent. Brandon turned, his face going white. The officers paused. "Mom," he breathed. "You're awake. Thank God. Tell them this is a misunderstanding." "You were trying to steal from me," I interrupted. "You forged documents. You tried to access my bank accounts without authorization. You attempted to have me declared mentally incompetent during surgery, and from what I just heard, you've been planning this for weeks, possibly months." "No, Mom, you're confused. It's the anesthesia." "I'm not confused, Brandon. I'm perfectly clear. Marcus, please give the officers copies of all the documentation we prepared." I watched my son's face as the truth hit him, that I knew, that I was aware of his financial problems, that I'd set up protections before my surgery. The shock morphed into something uglier, rage. "You knew?" he hissed. "You knew I was in trouble, and you did nothing. What kind of mother does that?" "The kind who wanted to give her son a chance to do the right thing," I replied. "The kind who waited to see if you'd come to me honestly instead of trying to rob me. You failed that test, Brandon. You were testing me while I'm losing everything. You're losing everything because you made bad decisions and then tried to fix them by committing crimes against your own mother. That's on you, not me." "Mr. Porter," one of the officers said, "we need you to come with us now." Brandon looked at me with a look I'd never seen before, pure hatred. "I hope you're happy, Mom. I hope it was worth it keeping your precious money and destroying your only son." "I didn't destroy you," I said quietly. "You destroyed yourself. I just refused to let you destroy me in the process." They led him away in handcuffs. I could hear him yelling as they took him down the hallway, ranting about ungrateful parents and greedy old women who cared more about money than family. The nurses in the recovery room were stunned, exchanging glances but saying nothing when the door closed and Brandon's voice faded. I looked at Marcus. "Is it really over?" "The immediate threat is," he replied. "But there's more you need to know. While you were in surgery, Brandon didn't just try to access your accounts. He went to your house." My heart skipped a beat. "What did he do?" "Let me get the detective. She needs to hear this directly from you." Detective Sarah Martinez came into my recovery room 20 minutes later. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes. "Mrs. Porter, I know you're recovering, so I'll make this quick. We need to talk about what your son did while you were in the operating room. It goes beyond the financial fraud." Marcus stayed by my side as she pulled up a chair. "We executed a search warrant at your residence, based on information Mr. Winters provided us. What we found suggests your son had been planning this for significantly longer than we initially thought." She flipped through her notebook. "We found a second set of keys to your home, which he had made without your knowledge. We found documents showing he'd been surveilling your daily routines for at least 3 months. And we found evidence he'd entered your home multiple times while you were out." My stomach turned. "He was in my house? When?" "Best we can determine, at least 6 times in the past 2 months. We believe he was documenting your assets, photographing your jewelry, searching for financial documents, possibly installing monitoring software on your computer. Oh my God. But here's where it gets worse, Mrs. Porter. This morning, while you were in surgery, he went to your house with a moving truck and 2 other men. They loaded up about 40 boxes of your belongings, your jewelry, some furniture, file boxes from your office, even personal items like photos and clothing. When we intercepted them, the truck was heading toward a storage facility in Vancouver, Washington. I couldn't breathe. The machines I was hooked up to started beeping faster as my heart rate spiked. "He was stealing my life," I managed to say. "While I was on the operating table, he was stealing everything." Detective Martinez nodded grimly. "That's exactly what he was doing. We believe his plan was to have you declared incompetent, potentially get you placed in a long-term care facility, and then liquidate your assets. The jewelry alone was worth about $150,000. Tears streamed down my face, not from sadness, but from pure rage. These weren't just valuable items, they were my history, my memories, the physical representations of a lifetime of love and loss. And my son was going to sell them like they were garage sale items. We recovered everything, Detective Martinez continued. It's all being cataloged as evidence, but you'll get it back. Every single piece. What charges is he facing? I asked, looking directly at her. So far, multiple counts: attempted financial exploitation of an elder, forgery, fraud, theft, burglary, and possibly identity theft, depending on what our tech team finds on your computer. If convicted on all counts, he's looking at a minimum of 15 years in state prison, possibly more. Good, I said, and I meant it. The nurse gave me a concerned look, but I didn't care. I wanted him prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No plea deals, no reduced sentences. I wanted everyone to know exactly what he did. Mrs. Porter, I understand you're angry, and you have every right to be, Detective Martinez said carefully. But I need you to understand that your son is already trying to spin this. His attorney contacted us claiming this was all a misunderstanding, that he was just trying to protect your assets. Then we bury him in evidence, Marcus interjected. We have the forged documents. We have the bank records showing his unauthorized access attempts. We have his financial records showing his motive. We have the moving truck, the stolen items, the surveillance, and we have Vivian's testimony showing she's perfectly competent. There's something else, Detective Martinez said, hesitating. Your son's wife called the station. She claims she knew nothing about any of this. She wants to cooperate with the investigation. I thought about my daughter-in-law, Claire. I'd always liked her. If she genuinely didn't know, I didn't want her caught up in this. Let her cooperate, I said. Detective Martinez nodded, making notes. I'll need a full statement from you, but that can wait until you're stronger. For now, focus on recovering. Mr. Winters has been incredibly helpful, and with the evidence we have, your son isn't going anywhere. After Detective Martinez left, Marcus and I sat in silence for a moment. You did everything right, he finally said. You trusted your instincts. You asked for help. You protected yourself. None of this is your fault. He's my son, Marcus. I raised him. Somewhere along the way, I failed him. No, Marcus said firmly. He made his own choices, bad choices, criminal choices. You gave him every opportunity to come to you honestly. He chose deception and theft instead. What happens now? Now you heal, you recover, you get your strength back, and then we make sure Brandon faces the consequences of his actions. We also need to secure your assets, change your locks, maybe consider moving temporarily. Moving from my own home? Just until the legal proceedings are finished. Brandon clearly knows how to get into your house. Even if he's in jail, we don't know who else he might have given access to. I have a friend who owns a secure apartment building downtown. I can get you a furnished unit right away. I wanted to argue, but he was right. My home didn't feel safe anymore. The thought of going back there made me sick. Okay, I agreed, but I want to go home first. I need to see what he did. When you're stronger, Marcus said, or as soon as the doctors clear you. I'll arrange it, but I'm coming with you, and so is a security detail. I was released from the hospital 5 days later. My chest hurt, I was constantly tired, and the doctors had me loaded up on meds, but my mind was sharp and my resolve was sharper. Marcus drove me home with 2 security guards following in a separate car. The moment I walked through my front door, I felt it, the violation. Things were slightly off, like a drawer not quite closed or a closet door ajar. I went to my bedroom, and the jewelry box on my dresser was empty. The safe in my closet, the one I thought was cleverly hidden, was open and empty. He knew where everything was, I said quietly. Marcus followed me through the house, documenting everything. In my home office, the filing cabinets had been rifled through. My computer was still there, but Brandon had installed keylogging software that recorded everything I typed for months. I have something that might help, Marcus said. The prosecution is building a timeline to show this was a calculated plan. He showed me his phone, displaying messages from Brandon to Claire, dated back almost 6 months. Once she's in surgery, I make the move. She won't know what hit her. The jewelry alone will clear half my debts. Reading those words written by my own son about me broke something inside me, but then it reformed harder than before. I want to testify, I said. I want to stand in front of a judge and jury and tell them exactly who Brandon Porter is. The trial took place 4 months later. By then, I'd fully recovered from my surgery. I'd moved into a secure apartment, changed all my locks, passwords, and account numbers, and installed a top-notch security system. The courtroom was packed, and the local news had picked up the story. I saw elderly women in the gallery, some with their adult children, watching with horror and solidarity. This wasn't just my story anymore, it was everyone's fear. Brandon sat at the defense table in a suit I recognized, one I'd bought him for his 40th birthday. He wouldn't look at me. His attorney tried everything to keep me off the stand, but the judge denied every motion. When I walked to the stand, I held my head high. I swore to tell the truth and then shared everything. Every conversation, every warning sign I'd ignored, every way my son had betrayed my trust. I didn't cry or waver. I made sure the jury understood this wasn't confusion or vindictiveness. This was a mother protecting herself from a predator who happened to share her DNA. The prosecutor showed the forged documents, bank records, surveillance evidence, text messages, and photos of my empty jewelry box. Claire testified about Brandon's financial issues and his desperate behavior. The tech expert talked about the spyware on my computer. Marcus testified about the timeline and the protections we set up. Brandon's defense tried to paint me as a bitter mother who refused to help her struggling son, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 18 years in state prison, with the chance for parole after 12. You didn't just commit financial crimes, the judge said, looking at my son. You violated the fundamental trust between parent and child. Your actions were calculated, callous, and cruel. I sat in that courtroom, watching my son being led away in handcuffs. He finally looked at me then, and I saw tears, not of remorse for what he'd done to me, but of self-pity for what he'd lost. That was 3 months ago. Today, I'm back in my home. My jewelry is in a safety deposit box at the bank, and my assets are secured with protections that make it nearly impossible for anyone to access them without verification. I've started speaking at elder advocacy groups, sharing my story and helping seniors recognize the signs of financial exploitation. My son will be in prison for a long time. I don't visit him or accept his calls. I've grieved for the son I thought I had and accepted that person never really existed. What existed was a desperate man who saw his mother as a resource rather than a person to be loved. But I survived. I fought back and I won. That's my story. I woke up from surgery to find my son had tried to steal my life, and I woke up fighting. Remember, trust your instincts, document everything, and protect yourself. Family should mean love and support, but sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who know us best. Stay vigilant, stay strong, and never apologize for protecting yourself, no matter where the threat comes from. Kindly subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.